Media organizations are slamming the decision of the Securities and Exchange Commission to revoke Rappler's license to operate. The group say this will affect not only media but every Filipino's right to free expression. Our Rex Remigio tells us why.
Media organizations are one in standing up against the Securities and Exchange Commission's move to shut down online news firm Rappler. The SEC claims foreign companies share ownership of Rappler, which is not allowed in the 1987 Constitution. But for the non-profit organization Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, the punishment on Rappler is too harsh.
This is no less worrisome than in Marcos's time, because this is a government that is absolutely averse to criticism.
The CMFR also believes the decision is an attack not only on press freedom but on the people's rights.
You take that away and you diminish the right of the public to know.
The Economic Journalists Association meanwhile says every Filipino should stand up and not let this pass. The National Union of Journalists meanwhile says all Filipino journalists should resist attempts to silence them. While the Foreign Correspondents Association says journalists must work independently in an environment free from harassment. Ordinary people have different reactions to the issue.
Regarding sa press freedom naman kasi, di ba, nandiyan pa naman kayo. O, nandiyan pa yung ABS-CBN, nandiyan pa yung GMA.
Kailangan yan i-litigate na lang. Sa korte na lang yan, i-litigate. Kasi medyo novel siya na issue.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says it's unfair to call the SEC action an attack on press freedom.
If the president wanted to do that, he could have just sent armed forces to their offices and padlocked them, which has been done by other regimes. The president has never done that.
Rappler Chief Executive Officer Maria Ressa remains defiant. She told CNN Philippines The Source she's ready to face arrest.
Yes, our lawyers tell me that's a possibility, because at the same time that the SEC sent us the decision, they also transmitted it to the Department of Justice. Depends on the Department of Justice what they will do, but I'm prepared for anything.
Media groups are calling on the public to be more vocal in expressing their dissent against government policies they disagree with. After all, that is the essence of democracy.
Nanumpa na bilang Deputy Administrator ng Office of Civil Defense si dating Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faldon, pinangunahan ni na Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana at ilang mga opisyal ng tanggapan ng oath service sa Camp Aguinaldo kaninang umaga. Naka-assign si Faldon sa operations ng OCD at Disaster Risk Reduction Management. Ayon sa kanyang mga kasamahan, napapanahon lamang ang pagkakaluklok sa pwesto ni Faldon, lalo na sa mga nangyayaring sakuna sa bansa tulad na lamang ng mga bagyo at pag-alboroto ng bulkan Mayon. Matatanda ang itinalaga ni Pangulong Duterte si Faldon sa pwesto noong nakaraang Disyembre. Kasalukuyan siyang nakadetine sa Senado kaugnay ng investigasyon sa higit 6 billion pesos na halaga ng shabu na naipuslit sa bansa.
The House Constitutional Amendments Committee tackles proposed changes to the Constitution, among them a limit to free speech, a prime minister who will run the government scrapping the offices of the ombudsman and the vice president, and deleting the word love in the preamble of the Constitution. Joyce Ilas tells us more.
Only the responsible exercise of the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press shall be protected under the Constitution. This is one of the proposed amendments to the 1987 Constitution of a sub-panel of the House Committee on Constitutional Amendments.
For the praise, responsible exercise of the freedom of speech, etc., should be inserted. If you go around, you just listen, there is so much abuse of this freedom. They think that it is unrestrained. Therefore, we propose the insertion of that phrase.
No member of the committee objected to the proposal, but opposition lawmakers believe this proposal was inserted to favor the administration.
Very subjective. Yeah. Ano ba yung responsible sa kanila? Yung mga fake news at propaganda, yan ba yung responsible?
Another subcommittee proposes 2 leaders will lead the executive department, the president as the head of state and the prime minister as the head of government. The president will still be elected by the people and may serve for 5 years with 1 re-election. His powers, however, will be limited to overseeing all branches of government, handling foreign affairs, and leading the armed forces. The Prime Minister will have more responsibilities, and he will be elected from the Federal Assembly, composed of lawmakers. The Prime Minister will run the government, prepare the annual budget of the Federal Republic, and execute all laws, among others. Some congressmen proposed the abolition of the office of the Vice President in 2022 and the office of the Ombudsman.
Duplicitous ang trabaho ng Office of the Ombudsman. Ano ba ang function ng Ombudsman na hindi pwede trabahuin o gawin ng Department of Justice?
E paano pa makapag-investigate ang DOJ kung ang gobyerno mismo ang imbestigahan mo? Like DOJ right now, do you think the Secretary Aguirre will investigate President Duterte? I don't think so.
One other thing the lawmakers want removed, the word love from the preamble. They believe love has no place in the Constitution.
Sa panayam naman ng CNN Philippines, pinabulaanan ng Malacanang na may kinalaman ito sa naging desisyon hinggil sa Rappler. Ayon kay Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque, di raw dapat bahira ng politika ang issue dahil independent na ahensya ang SEC.
So there is here a limitation of freedom of the press that it should be open to Filipinos. And I think the SEC is a local body that determines whether or not the corporations comply with its constitutional requirements. We have nothing to do with the SEC decision. That was a very sound decision of the SEC. And as I said, the president did not even appoint the majority of that commission. No?
Kumpirmado ho sanang makakausap natin ngayon si Armand Pa ng spokesperson ng Securities and Exchange Commission. Nag-oo na ho siya sa ating panayam pero hanggang ngayon ay patuloy pa rin pong tinatawagan ng CNN Philippines ang spokesperson ng SEC para naman po syempre makuha ang kanilang panig.
The Supreme Court has started hearing oral arguments on petitions questioning the constitutionality of the extension of martial law in Mindanao. Our Anja Limari reports live from Manila. Anja, what happened in today's hearings?
Well, Associate Justice Noel Tiham asked the petitioners, why is it that martial law is still included in the 1987 Constitution, considering that its power is horrific? Well, by Representative Edsel Lagman argues that the President under the Constitution has an extraordinary power to declare martial law, but it is not absolute. And one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, Christian Monson, explains that at that time, they wanted to cover an extraordinary situation. That is why the provision is also specific and ultimate. Now, Monson even criticized the recent Supreme Court ruling upholding the proclamation of martial law in Mindanao, which for him seems to say that martial law is a measure of first resort rather than last resort. Now, Lagman insists that there is no factual basis to extend martial law in Mindanao. Lagman even says that the extension is like killing a fly with sledgehammer. Now, Associate Justice Marvic Leonen also asked the petitioners if they can just make their lives easier and simply say that they are ignorant of the intelligence information being enjoyed by the President and fully defer to him. In short, why can they simply not be contrabida? But Monsoda argues that if that happens, then we're back to 1972 or back during the martial law period of former President Ferdinand Marcos. Now, Associate Justice Leonen also clarifies that the court is not reviewing the act of the President, but that of Congress, if it did its job on checking the factual basis of extending martial law in Mindanao. Now, Pia, there's another round of oral arguments tomorrow. That's 10 in the morning, where Solicitor General Jose Calida will face the justices. Pia?
Anjo, there was a justice who mentioned the word supermajority in Congress. Tell us more about that.
That's right, Pia. Associate Justice Noel Tiham raises that point. What's wrong with having a supermajority in Congress? Well, Lagman initially says there's none, but he also explains that there is something wrong if the supermajority railroads the request of the President.
We have this breaking news just in from our Joyce Ilas, who's covering the House of Representatives, and she's reporting that the House in plenary has adopted House Concurrent Resolution number 9 to constitute Congress as a constituent assembly. This may be because there are plans to consider federalism and a shift to a parliamentary form of government. And this is something that allies of President Duterte in the House leadership and in the House as a whole are considering very seriously. We'll have more details on that in just a bit. But first, this story from the Constitution to another basic law. Lawmakers agreed to remove the word territory in the proposed Bangsamoro Charter working draft. Zamboanga Sibugay Representative Wilter Palma says they replaced the word territory with geographical area to avoid a possible constitutional challenge in court. Palma led the joint subcommittee hearing on the proposed BBL.
The term territory, pinalitan lang namin ng geographical area. Kasi when you say territory, it presupposes under international law, as part of the characteristics of a state, is territory. So, di ba ang fear natin during the last Congress and even now is baka humiwalay sila, mga ganun haka-haka. So, to safeguard lang, tinanggal namin yung term na territory.
Palma adds the joint committees on Muslim affairs, local government and peace, reconciliation and unity will finalize the working draft. The subcommittee is reconciling 4 versions. Palma says their target is to finish the draft by the end of the month to jumpstart discussions and public hearings. We begin with a possible hazardous eruption as Mount Mayon is progressively increasing activity. You're seeing a time-lapse footage by residents showing lava flowing down the slopes of the so-called perfect cone. Mayon has been spewing ash since late Saturday afternoon. Disaster officials raise alert level 3, which means hazardous eruption is possible within days or weeks. Alert level 5 is the highest warning, which means a hazardous eruption is taking place. Authorities also record rockfall due to volcanic earthquakes and lava collapses. Plumes of ash as high as 2 kilometers eventually fell in barangays Kamalig, Ginubatan, and Pulangi. Let's get the latest situation around Mayon volcano in Albay province with our Makoy Popioko live from Legazpi City. Makoy, what do you see there right now? Is Mayon still spewing lava as of this time?
Pia, definitely Mayon volcano rages on, spewing lava and thick black smoke. The State Volcanology Institute calls these activities quiet eruptions. Overnight, some 75 lava pillars collapsed, causing rocks to roll down the volcano. There were also 9 episodes of ground shaking, 4 of which were accompanied by fountains of lava flowing down the slopes, covering 2 kilometers. It's been raining intermittently all throughout the day. As you can see, it's raining hard now. And this is what worries the resident volcanologist. FIVOC's volcanologist Ed Laguerta says mud flows or lahar burying everything in their path is possible. Laguerta warns communities, even those outside the extended 7-kilometer danger zone, to be vigilant.
Baka masanay ang tao na ang delikadong lugar lang ang 6 na kilometro. Saka yung 1 kilometro na dagdag. Pag pinag-usapan kasi yung mud flow sa layman's, sa hindi bulkan, o kaya lahar sa may volcanic areas, walang distance yan eh. Kung matanda nyo sa Pinatubo, 30 kilometro sa abot.
And what could be the worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario, tatabunan yung bahay. Kung hindi ka handa, di matatabunan ka doon. Like what happened in 2006 here.
Laguerta adds the agency also recorded ashfall in the towns of Kamalig, Ginubatan, and Pulangi. And you're right, Pia, the entire province of Albay is now under state of calamity. And this was declared shortly before we went on air after the Sangguniang Panlalawigan decided on the recommendations of Albay Governor Al Francis Bichara. Pia.
McCoy, how many people have been evacuated and are classes still suspended there?
Pia, over 34,000 residents have been evacuated from the extended 7-kilometer danger zone. Here in Legazpi City, classes resumed, but classes from kindergarten to senior high school in schools occupied by the evacuees are still suspended. Here in Legazpi City, the situation is normal. People go about their daily activities. The aggressive lava spewing of Mayon volcano is so far not affecting the city.